So in North Pole, Alaska, no surprise, there was a tourist trap, Santa's workshop.
And we went.
It was there.
It's true.
And it was hard not to come home with too many souvenirs, quite frankly.
It was a lot of fun to walk around.
It was great. But we did bring home some souvenirs.
We did.
We each got a North Pole, Alaska hoodie with
Yeah.
a picture of a moose on it.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
that was nice. Welcome to the show called Let's Talk Homeschool, brought to you by Apologia Educational Ministries. This is the show where we talk about everything homeschooling, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. We want to affirm and encourage you in the decision to homeschool, challenge and inspire you to take it to new heights, and celebrate everything you get to experience along the way in this adventure of a lifetime. We're your hosts, Davis and Rachael Carman, and today's show is titled Alaska.
Woohoo!
So let's talk homeschool.
Okay.
And I guess my first question is, what does Alaska have to do with homeschooling? Why a show, a podcast on the subject of Alaska?
Well, because we have a guiding principle that if you ask us to come, we will come. If we can, if our schedule is open, and a homeschool group in Alaska asked if I would come and do a couple of mom events in the great state of Alaska. And I'd never been. You've been before. I've never been, and I said yes. And so we got to go and do 2 events, one up in Fairbanks and then one down in Anchorage.
Yes, and so the place in Fairbanks, that's where we flew into.
Right.
But we stayed at some lakeside cabins in a certain city where the event actually took place. And what was the name of that city in Alaska?
Okay, so you got to let this sit on you because I am cold-natured. I'm not a cold weather lover. But I stayed in a cabin in North Pole, Alaska.
That's right.
It's true. Now, it's 4.5 hours from the Arctic Circle, which is a whole nother conversation. So it wasn't the North Pole, but it was North Pole, Alaska. And it was pretty cool to be able to say that.
Yes, and there was snow on the ground. There was actually ice beginning to form at the surface of the lake that we were there. The temperature really wasn't that bad. It was 30.
I didn't think so either.
30 to 37 degrees was pretty much the temperature range while we were there.
Which is shocking. We left 80 here to go there. But yeah,
And it wasn't too windy, so even though we took winter coats, we didn't put them on until the last day.
Fair.
Which was a boat tour on an open water, which we'll tell you about at some point.
Yeah.
So let's start with the mom's events.
Sure.
There was a 2-day event in North Pole, Thursday night and Friday morning.
Right.
And then all day Saturday, we were in Anchorage for the second mom's event. Right. 2 separate events. So tell us about each of these mom's events.
So the 2-day event in Fairbanks / North Pole, we did a mom's event. About 20, I think it was 26 moms came. It's Alaska. It wasn't about the numbers. It was about the ministry. And we did an event based on the theme, Thirst No More, talking about the importance of us coming to God alone, desperate, and thirsty. So we looked at some unnamed women of the Bible. We spent time in worship. We spent time studying God's Word, and we spent time in prayer, which was glorious. We also played a few games and laughed together, and I got to talk to the moms and hear their story. It was really a blessing all the way around.
Well, and one of the things that I know the moms said to you at both locations was really kind of answering a question, how did you get to Alaska?
Sure.
Or why do you stay in Alaska? Did you get here on purpose, by accident, via the military? But what was their most common answer to the question, what do you think about Alaska? Why are you staying in Alaska?
Yeah, this was surprising. I couldn't have predicted this. So most all of the women that I spoke, most all the moms that I spoke to are there for military reasons. That's how they got there anyway. But almost all of them said it's a great place to raise their kids.
Yeah, a great place to raise
them. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Not that I thought it was. Not that I would have expected them to say it's a terrible place to raise your kids. I don't know. That's just not. That's not what I thought they would say.
Yeah, I think there was even a lot more in that answer than meets the eye. There's certainly the outdoor wilderness. They talked about going outside, and yet you have to remember that in Alaska, there's a period of time where there's only 2 hours of sunlight, and there's another period of time where there's only 2 hours of darkness.
Yeah.
So we were there in October, so it was roughly 10 or 11 hours of daylight. We were, at the closer to the fall equinox than the summer or the winter one.
Yeah.
But they get outside a lot, and that's a big part of why it's a great place to raise a family, along with it's a very conservative place. It's an independent spirit place, and that lends itself to homeschooling, which lends itself to Alaska being a good place. But yeah, that was really got our minds thinking about what does it mean for a place to be a great place to raise a family.
Well, and right on the heels of that, what I heard over and over again and again in both locations, just to be clear, was a real enthusiasm about being there. I mean, they're really happy to be in Alaska and really excited about what they're doing there. I talked to one mom at length in North Pole, and she was saying that they were with the military and they were going to retire there, which just blew my mind, right? I mean, as a sunshine-loving girl, I was like, okay, wow. And she just said, I feel like of all the places we've ever been, I have mission here. I feel like I know what God is doing here and what he needs me to do here. And I thought, that is so powerful. Yeah. She also said something else that I thought was really meaningful. And she said, there are things that I don't like about here, but I would have things I don't like about no matter where I am. And so when I put those on the scale and realized there's going to be something everywhere, I really like everything else here. And I thought that was also a really great way to look at it. And I thought it was well spoken by a military wife, because military wives are remarkable people. I've known many actually, and I am really impressed by their dedication to their husbands, to their families, their willingness, to get up and move, their adventurous spirit, their resourcefulness. And this group of moms was no different from that. Yeah. They were all joyful. They came just like we talked about. They came alone, meaning there's not a lot of them, right? It's a smaller community, but it's a tight community. They came desperate for some encouragement. Not a lot of people go up to encourage people in Alaska. And so that was a really powerful thing. They were
very grateful to you for coming.
They were very grateful. And I was very grateful to have been invited. And they came thirsty. And I really think it was a powerful thing that the Holy Spirit did. I was very grateful to be a part of it.
All right. So that was the North Pole event.
Right.
And it would have been very easy for you to do the exact same event far south in Anchorage to a whole new group of women, but you actually did a different, unique presentation and day in Anchorage. So tell us about that event. How was it similar? How was it different?
Yeah, so I offered to just do a different event, not knowing if there would be any crossover or anything. And I offered to do an event on the theme, Remember and Do Not Forget, which I've been doing events on that theme since, I want to say 21 or 22. And in fact, over at Rachael Carman, the Real Refreshment podcast, I believe I have a 5-podcast series on that theme. So if you wanted to go over and listen to that, you can, and there's PDFs over on my website for that. But that's what we did. We did that one in Anchorage. So the whole idea of that one is remember and do not forget. Remember is the key word for the book of Deuteronomy. So we talk about who Moses was and this charge that he's giving the second generation in Deuteronomy. Don't forget what your parents forgot. I buried all of them in the wilderness. Now it's your chance. Pay attention, choose life, all of that. So we talked about all that. Same components, worship, teaching, prayer, and we played some games. We played the same games in Anchorage that we played in Fairbanks, which is the purse scavenger hunt. I've done that for years. The moms love that. And then we also played The Price is Right. Oh,
so you did tell me some of the strange items that were in a purse. What were one or two of the strangest items that a mom was actually carrying in her purse?
In her purse. So that's what makes this game so much fun, right? Because you never know. I've got the list of things that you get points for if you have these things, and they're random. Not maybe random for a mom. So if you have wipes in your purse, or you have a red highlighter, or you have a hair clip, or you have a binky, any of those things, you're going to think that those are probably in a mom's purse, certainly at a conference. But in the past, the weirdest thing that anybody had, two weird things that people had in their purses. One mother at an event in the sunny South had guacamole in her purse, which I thought was just a scream. I just thought, who has guacamole in their purse? This is a true guacamole addict. Somebody packs guacamole in their purse. And then the other strange thing was there was a woman one time who worked in estates, clearing estates out. And she had worked with an estate that afternoon before coming to the evening of a refreshment. And she had a bag of gold fillings from the deceased in her purse. I mean, those are just, you can't make this stuff up. But in Alaska, and this won't shock anybody, people were packing heat. So one mom had 2 pistols in her purse, and, various moms had ammo. So it wasn't even unique, right? It wasn't even shocking. They had duck calls, all the things that it were like, oh, well, we are in Alaska. So, but that's fun. It's fun to see the difference, and it's fun to celebrate with them and laugh with them. And we circled up at the end, and we prayed, and we sang the doxology, and it was really a great time of blessing. It was beautiful. It was a great visual. I get to see all those women again when the Lord returns, and we get to spend eternity together. And so I just felt like I made new friends. It was great.
All right. So let's transition now to some of the sights and wildlife that we saw in the great frontier, the last frontier, the great state of Alaska.
We didn't just fly in and fly out. We actually did.
We did. So we started in Fairbanks, which is really the north central part of the state, and then headed south. But in Fairbanks and the North Pole, Alaska, what did we want to see, and what were we able to see?
So I really wanted to see the Northern Lights. And people kind of, I don't know if it was a warning. Maybe it was a warning. People said, well, you'll be able to see it with your phone, with your camera, before you can see it with your eyes. And so Thursday night of the event in North Pole, I was talking to some of the moms about this, and they were like, have you seen the Northern Lights? And I'm like, it's been cloudy. I haven't been able to see anything. And so we're talking, and then one of them goes, they're out. And so we all raced outside, and they're pointing to the sky, and they're showing me what looks like stacks of clouds. I don't know, you came too. And we're looking, and I'm like, I was expecting something more spectacular, right? And I get out my phone, and my phone picture was really beautiful. But they told me, they were like, no, it really does get more spectacular than this. There are times when you can really see it. But that's what we got. We didn't get any. Back at the cabin, we got a couple of shots too. And it was pink and green, and it was beautiful. But I didn't get to see it with my bare eye as much as I wanted to. Yeah,
it was primarily through the phone. I was able to filter and pick up the Northern Lights. So we got some pictures.
We did.
But it wasn't quite as spectacular on that semi-clear night. It was cloudy most of the time, which was inhibiting.
And I was hoping to see more of the stars too, but we did have a fair amount of light pollution where we were. So if I go back, and I do want to go back, I would want to be in a more distant place so that we could actually see more. But what we saw was pretty glorious.
So in North Pole, Alaska, no surprise, there was a tourist trap, Santa's Workshop.
And we went.
It was there.
It's true.
And it was hard not to come home with too many souvenirs, quite frankly.
It was a lot of fun to walk around.
It was great. But we did bring home some souvenirs.
We did.
We each got a North Pole, Alaska hoodie with a picture of a moose on it.
That's true.
So that was nice.
We had to have proof that we had been to North Pole, and so I actually have a hoodie. Been there, done that, so that's pretty cool.
Right. So after the event in Fairbanks and North Pole, we stayed in our rental car, and we drove 7 hours south. It's a big state. Through Denali National Park. Now, Denali means the tall one, and it's referring to what used to be called Mount McKinley, which is the tallest peak in North America. 20,320 feet.
Yeah.
It's big, but you can only see it on a clear day. And of the 7 days we were there, 6 were cloudy. The one clear day was the day we were driving through Denali National Park.
It's true, and it was just beautiful.
We were able to see it way off in the distance at one of the stopping points.
That was a beautiful drive.
It was
a truly beautiful drive. Snow-capped mountains on both sides. A river ran through it. It was just beautiful. Yes. We saw a bald eagle. And I kept wanting, what was the number one thing I wanted to see?
So the number one thing you wanted to see was not just a moose, but moose, plural.
I wanted to see moose, and everybody kept telling me, "Oh, not a problem. You'll see moose. Oh no, not a problem.
You see them every day.
You'll see them all the time.
They're in my backyard."
And I kept looking. I mean, my eyes were peeled.
We were in the car for 7 hours during the daylight that day, driving through a national park.
Not one moose in the national park. Not one.
Yeah, and people were shocked that we hadn't seen one by this point in our journey. So we drove down to Anchorage. Rachael does the event on Saturday. And then...
wait. I have to say this, though. So, a surprise, we go through the national park and we're driving. I'm looking for a moose. We see a bald eagle. Was there something else that we saw? We saw a fox earlier.
Saw a fox.
But in the park, I don't remember we saw anything else. So the whole time we're just driving, no moose. Spend the night, get up the next day, get to the event at early, and I'm down front in the sanctuary getting all my stuff together, organizing, praying, singing, and this man that I'd never met runs in the building. He said, "Are you from here?" And I said, "No, sir." And he said, "There's a black bear in the parking lot. You got to come see it." So we're not even in the national park. I'm not looking for a black bear. And I go downstairs and outside, and maybe 50 yards from me is a black bear in the parking lot.
The church parking lot.
Wow. And I said, "Is this normal? Do they usually come to town like this?" And he goes, "No, this is not normal. He should not be here, but I wanted to make sure you saw him." And he went down the alley, and I was like, okay, mark bear off my list, but still no moose.
Right. So, but we went on a tour.
We did.
We went on a boat tour. The boat held roughly 100 people. So to give you a sense of the size of the boat, it wasn't a cruise ship, but it wasn't a small 6-man boat.
It wasn't a dinghy.
It was a fairly large boat. I'm guessing 50 to 75 feet long. So sizable, but we went into Resurrection Bay, which is off of the city of Seward, Seward, which is named after William Seward, the man who was a senator in the 1800s who helped negotiate the deal to purchase Alaska from Russia.
Yeah, true.
People thought it was the worst deal ever until they discovered gold and oil.
And then it was like, oh, this is great.
This was a deal.
No, you have to know, this was beautiful. I did not realize, this probably is a commentary on my geography, I didn't realize you could go south of Alaska on land. South of Anchorage on land. I thought the only thing south of Anchorage was water. But this is the peninsula down there. And the drive from Anchorage to Seward, again, just stunning.
Stunningly beautiful. Yeah.
Marshes, mountains, water. It was so beautiful.
It was beautiful. And we did go through a little bitty town called Moose Gap. Still no moose.
No moose.
Didn't see any yet. So we continue driving and we go on a boat tour in Resurrection Bay. Mm-hmm. So they gave us all the safety instructions when we got on the boat, and they warned us about motion sickness, and they warned us about motion sickness again, and it's pretty calm and smooth. But they said that the Gulf of Alaska is just outside Resurrection Bay. There's 3 islands that help, calm the waters, but when we get out to the end of the bay, it could get a little choppy. Well, we continue along and we see an eagle. We see several big rocks with a colony of stellar seals.
You have to look those up. They're unique.
Yeah, there's sea lions, there's harbor seals, and then there's stellar seals. And these were stellar seals, which stay in Resurrection Bay pretty much year-round, they said.
Then we saw mountain goats that didn't look real. I mean,
they were literally on the side of a vertical cliff. I don't know how they got there or why they were there or where their home was. But
I thought it was a mom and a little one. Is that what you thought? But at the same time, I would have believed it if someone had just said, those are just posters. I mean, it didn't seem real. I don't know how they were standing there. It was vertical.
It was.
There was grass.
I don't know how they got there.
I don't know how they got there. I don't know how they did that.
But we saw otter, cute as can be.
Oh my goodness, they're so cute.
The captain took us into this other mini bay within Resurrection Bay that had a surprise viewing. In the water were jellyfish.
It's true. They were purple.
And they were purple and green and yellow and glowing, just right there, like they always are, she said. So.
And then, we're in a bay. I don't know how far across it was. I guess it varied. But these cliffs on both sides with just verdant. So all these different shades of green, jade. The water was like a jade color. It was just beautiful water, and then all these waterfalls on these cliffs on either
Waterfalls
side.
everywhere.
I mean, this was just behold the beauty and the majesty of the creation of God. It was so beautiful.
Well, technically, it was a national park. Kenai Fjords, that's Fjords, Kenai Fjords National Park. We were right there. And sure enough, when the captain of the ship got past these 3 islands, and we were right at the mouth of the bay with the Gulf of Alaska off in the distance, there were some swells. I'm guessing 15-foot swells.
Yeah, it got choppy. It got tough.
You saw people kind of sitting tight and holding on.
No, well, people were racing to the back of the ship to launch. It was rough. But the boat itself, there was a heated compartment where we sat. All the coffee and tea, hot tea that you could drink, which was lovely. And then there were like places you could go, observation decks. And I stood a lot of time on the back of the boat, just watching everything so beautifully from the back of the boat. But you're right, when we got to choppy water, it was choppy water.
Most people were inside, and that boat was going up and down.
It was.
Then we had one last surprise sighting, and that was, I forget what kind of porpoise, but there was a kind of porpoise that came along and played and was just having a blast in the wake of the boat.
We did see one glacier in the distance.
Yes.
I thought we were going to get closer to it, so I'm not really sure that I understand why we didn't get any closer. But
right, if you look at the map, it's actually Bear Glacier, as in black or brown bear, but it was off in the distance. And there was lots of good and interesting history on glacier ice versus normal ice.
Right.
Apparently, it's significantly compressed. A lot of the air is taken out of it, which is why it doesn't melt quickly, and you can actually break a tooth on it. You do not want to be putting it in your mouth.
Hard.
So, but then we're driving home.
No, wait. And then we went to dinner at a local place. I mean, this is a small town. I think I looked up, and so it was my birthday. So full disclosure, it was my birthday. So before we got on the boat, we got a cinnamon roll, which I thought was halfway decent, and which was lovely. And I got hot chocolate. And then we get on the boat, right? And we do this 4-hour thing. And then at the end, we're pretty hungry, right? And we don't want to drive all the way back to Anchorage. That's 4 hours. Three. And so we needed to eat before we headed back. So we're gonna do a local place. There's only 2,800 people who live in Seward, small town, folks. But we looked up where to eat, and there was this nice little local restaurant, and we ate, and it was delicious.
It was.
And all these local people, we talked to the waitress, what's your story? She's going to school. And
she loved it here.
She loves it here. And she's always been here. And she's going to look, I think she's moving to Wasalla. I think that's what she said. But we met delightful people at every turn. And then it was time to head home. And what am I still looking for, people? I am still looking for the elusive moose.
Right. And so we've only got maybe 3 hours until the sun goes down by the time we're going to arrive.
Looking everywhere.
So we're driving, we're looking, and there's all these signs. Moose crossing next 2 or 3 miles.
Nope.
Moose crossing next 3 or 4 miles. We just keep seeing the signs, keep looking.
Nope.
Nothing until we're maybe half hour from town.
And
the sun is practically down.
Yep. And in the distance, I said to him, could it be? Could it be? And there, it had to be 150 yards off. It was not close by.
It was not close enough to take a picture. It was not light enough to take a picture.
It was a lone moose.
But I was ready to pull over and stop and take a picture.
It was a lone moose in a marsh. I don't know where he had been earlier in the day, and I don't know where all his friends were. But it's the only live moose I saw the whole time we were there. The whole time.
I know. But the next day we got up early, go to the airport for a full and long day of travel back from Anchorage to Seattle to Charlotte. And I do get a picture of Rachel with a stuffed moose at the Anchorage airport.
It's true. That's the closest I got to one. But here's the deal. We've already decided. I want to go back. Alaska was beautiful. I don't think I want to go back in October because by the time we got there, all the leaves were already gone. They did say don't come in July because it's the height of the tourist season. I think I would really like to go in August. And I would like to actually fly back into Fairbanks. I want to drive to the Arctic Circle just because who does that? And go up there, maybe, I don't know if there's a place up there you can look at the Northern Lights. Surely there's not light pollution 4.5 hours north of Fairbanks. See the Northern Lights, and then I want to take the train. This is my order. I want to take the train instead of drive from Fairbanks down to Anchorage, I want to take the train from Fairbanks to Anchorage to Seward and do that, maybe a different boat thing this next time. But I would just commend it to you. If you've ever thought about going to Anchorage, or Alaska, if you've ever thought, maybe not, I'm here to tell you, there is something there, and there are wide open spaces. There are very nice, dear, friendly, generous individuals. We were welcomed. And again, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to go and meet these other moms there in Anchorage. And if you want to do it, we would encourage you to do so. It was a great trip.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This has been a Let's Talk Homeschool, brought to you by Apologia Educational Ministries, and we've been your hosts, Davis and Rachael Carman. As always, we're walking by faith and enjoying the homeschool adventure of a lifetime.